Really what's happening is that technology drives our societies forward into new commerce, into new ways of doing things, into new business, right? New industries. But ethics defines it. And our values, we're not talking about religion or so here, right? Very basic human stuff. What do we think is good? What do we want? What are our values? What do we appreciate? And that's pretty much alike across many different cultures, of course. Here's the challenge, technology doesn't have ethics. Technology doesn't understand our feelings, our emotions, where we are going and why we're going there and what we want. Of course, it's binary, right? So this is really something we have to understand and also safeguard. Technology could be heaven or hell. As, for example, virtual reality, the so-called metaverse, I think it's going to be great for doctors and policemen and judges, people who have multiple data feeds like Tom Cruise in Minority Report pulling out the data. That's going to be amazing, right? But for people, in everyday use like Google Glass, remember that? Right? Not good. I think we need to think about ethics as knowing the difference between what you have a right to do or the power and what is the right thing to do. Now that describes Facebook really well. They have the right to do whatever they are doing in terms of putting poison out all over the internet, right? But it's not the right thing to do. It's unethical. And this is why I think Facebook is declining and evaporating. Is a great example of when people lose trust in a platform, the platform crashes eventually. I think the stock is down 68%. I've been talking about this for quite some time, but we need to also really be careful that we do the right thing for our community, for our country. Right? And of course for the world, right? Thinking about the global and planetary implications. So as we're moving to that future, it's quite clear we are surrounded by technology. Of course, you guys know the Vitruvian Man, Leonardo da Vinci. Not my ancestor. When you say not, I don't come from that line, but just kidding, just similar name. But now I call this the Neoluvian Man, woman, of course. I should put a woman here next time. Surrounded by technology everywhere like this, whether it's 3D or printing or computing or different kinds of augmented reality glasses, it's going to be everywhere. And there's no way to stop that, really. We need to put this into the right perspective, right? It's a question of balance. And I think we're going to move in the future where we're going to do a bit of rewilding, right? Where we have to go back and see a human renaissance, like we did in the 15th century and 16th century and 17th century as well, in Italy and in Europe, going back to connecting with nature, with other people. So many people have more relationships with their screen than they have with other people. I mean, that's pathetic. This is not what we are. It's not what we want. It's not what we should be striving for. It's really, really important that we rewild, right? We go back to nature and reconnect to nature. And so I have this great animation that I use quite a bit on this as we're moving to that future where everything is connected, everything is mobile, and cell phones are everywhere, and computers are everywhere, and in a certain point what I call the sofalarity, not the singularity, where we do everything remote control from our sofa. And then we have virtual reality and the metaverse, right? The amazing metaverse. Right? Nature deficit disorder, right? This is officially a disease. We need to bring our kids back to nature, back to each other, and still use devices. It's a question of balance. Right? We have to come together and say, okay, how do we do this? How do we bring all these amazing things about technology that I described in one of the first slides, and what makes us human? How do we bring that together, right? Intuition, emotions, imagination, ethics, empathy, consciousness. Machines don't do any of those things. This is what makes us. Right? Humans are defined by experiences, by emotions, by relationships, right? By things that aren't on the computing side. So this handshake, that's going to be crucial. And we're going to need a lot of regulation and supervision. And the European government is working very hard on rules, for example, the Digital Markets Act and the artificial intelligence regulation and all that. We have to figure out how we can create benefit. We can't just skip technology and say it's too dangerous. Well, some of it we may want to, but generally speaking, we can't. Now we have to kind of find a good compromise and understand which way we're headed here. Because, anything that can be automated will be automated, right? It's the end of routine. Driving, well, that's not entirely sure, right? But clearly factory work, work at standardized, for example, even for lawyers making non-disclosure agreements financial work and financial markets to determine the likely course of investment and so on. And we have many robots and artificial intelligence agents that already are doing this, chatbots and all that stuff, right? But it may be the end of the routine, but it's not the end of human work, right? Because anything that cannot be automated, and there's a lot, right? Anything that cannot be automated or digitized or virtualized becomes a lot more valuable. So that the things that make us human, for example, the checkout in the supermarket, in a huge supermarket, maybe you can automate that, but in a small tobacco store in France or Italy, right, people want to chat. Right? So it's really important to have that person there, because you can't automate that social interaction and what it does to people. So I think that actually is good news for the future of work. Clearly we can see in this chart here how AI will change the job market. Anything that's sort of on the automatable side, transportation, storage, public administration, construction at least, also a little bit, right? And that's going to shrink in jobs, and on top we have healthcare, education, communication, teaching, and so on, that will grow. So it's a big shift of jobs. Also, there'll be many new jobs as we're investing so heavily in the green economy. The World Economic Forum says roughly over 100 million new jobs, which I think is optimistic, but a lot of new jobs will come from investing in green energy, from the curve I showed earlier from Forrester. Bottom line is, machines are for answers, humans are for questions. Right? We're sort of much more malleable and multinary, and the intelligence is not just one thing, computing, right? Well, that would be too bad if it was just one thing. That would be too easy. So moving into the future, well, those things are the future of what we do, right? Human agency, consciousness, imagination, intuition. Intuition is more important than knowledge, is what Einstein said a long time ago. Resilience, unorthodoxy, creativity. I mean, that's what we have to teach our kids, right? To not be a machine. Machines can't be creative. They can simulate creativity, like DALL-E 2, right? Yes, that's possible, but can they actually be an entrepreneur? I doubt it, because it takes a lot more flexibility and a lot more emotional quotient than machines will ever have, hopefully. This is also why I don't believe we're going to become useless as machines are taken over, for example, cleaning at the airport or maybe even flying an airplane. We're just going to shift to new jobs that are human-only jobs. And yes, it may mean in 20 years we're going to work less, and that's hopeful. Right? So we could say maybe we'll just want to work 3 or 4 hours a day for the same money, because machines make it so efficient. The other thing is, as we look at this sort of metaverse scenario, I don't think we're going to get to the point where we have a useless real life just because we can live in virtuality or appear in a hologram. That would be pathetic, right? This is kind of what Zuckerberg has in mind when he says we're going to live in these digital worlds. Well, I think that's ridiculous. Right? Nobody wants to live in the digital world, except for maybe a few gamers, that are already kind of living there. Yeah, we're moving to the future where our skills are going to change completely. First, the robots are everywhere, but of course, this is a new pyramid of skills, right? The lower part of this pyramid is stuff that machines can do, right? Intellectual knowledge, logic. That's kind of machine turf. We shouldn't compete with machines on memorizing Wikipedia or something. Right? Our position will be on the top here. Tacit knowledge, deep knowledge, understanding, wisdom, purpose, human agency, spirituality, la dolce vita. Right? I mean, machines don't know what that means. Right? Human-only turf is where we are going, and that's also what education needs to start doing, to go back to the humanities, right? To not just focus only on STEM and science and technology, engineering, right? To actually go back, right? And go back to what makes us human. Those are the jobs of the future. Everything else can be done by machines, which dirty, dull, and dangerous, computing, logic work, right? And we need to protect this, right? We need to protect our mystery, our data, our personality, the right to be forgotten. The things that make us human have to be protected, right? And I think we're seeing that discussion happening everywhere in terms of like face recognition interviews with an AI that scans my face while I'm giving answers. I think that would not be a good idea. Should be not allowed to do that because it's dehumanizing. So as we move in this future, I think this kind of view of intelligence is obviously a little bit, I could say, out of proportion. myopic, right? Because, we don't just think with the brain, we think with the body. We're humans, right? We hear, we see, we smell, we taste, we do all these things, right? And basically, our intelligence is multinary, right? Machines are binary, zeros and ones. Humans are multinary. We have 8 different kinds of intelligences. 4 of them are here: social, intellectual, kinesthetic, right? And then emotional intelligence, which allegedly women have a lot more of that. So let's see if men can catch up with that in the future. So that's what defines us as humans. That's sort of the thing that machines can't do. Now, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we have to make a difference on the first part of it, intelligent assistance, IA, I call this, which is everywhere now, and then, of course, automation, which is a result of the first part, and then augmented intelligence, like artificial augmented visions, virtual reality, and the metaverse, and then ultimately the autonomous intelligence, which I think we need to cut there and say, well, do we really want machines to be autonomous, generally intelligent? I think too much of a good thing can be a very bad thing. Too many machines doing too many things that we don't have control over, where we're not in the loop, doesn't strike me as a very good thing. So let's keep that in mind when we regulate artificial intelligence. At a certain point, we're going to need a global understanding of how far we go with this and which way do we want to head. I want to wrap this up by saying that many people think that the future is kind of dark and the lights are going out, right? I don't think so at all. The doors aren't closing on humanity, they are opening. And that opening has been painful, can be painful, post-pandemic, hopefully post-war next year, right? I think the future is better than we think. When we use technology wisely, when we use it humanly, when we agree on how far it should go or not, right? When we put human flourishing first and people, planet, purpose and prosperity, not just profit and growth. I think if we do that, then technology is welcome to help us in every possible angle. Right? So it's really important to understand that we're moving into a combination of nature and humanity and what it means to be human, and of course science and technology. So you could say in a certain way HI and AI, right, coming together in this sort of new blend. Very important to realize, we should not become more like machines just because we have so many machines around us. Right? Embrace technology, but don't become it. That's the key word of my last book, Technology versus Humanity, which is now 5 years old, actually. But anyway, technology is super important, and the future will be awesome humans on top of amazing technology.